Good morning, Kuhner country. Yes, baby. It's about time. Yesterday, in a speech at the Detroit Economic Club, President Trump announced to the country, to the world, but especially to sanctuary city mayors, sanctuary city governors, blue states, blue jurisdictions, your federal funding starting February 1st is going to be pulled. That's right. President Trump now has had enough with Minneapolis, with Minnesota, with Portland, LA, and this includes Boston. Boston is on the list of sanctuary jurisdictions, and President Trump said, I've had it. I am sick and tired of all of you blue states and blue cities, sanctuary states, coddling violent illegal alien criminals, protecting them, refusing to cooperate. In fact, in many instances, deliberately obstructing and undermining ICE. I'm done. I've had it. Within a matter of weeks, your federal funding will be gone. Roll cut one, a mic.
We're giving 90-day notices to places like California, Scott. Right away, we're going to send out that notice. Who would bill the federal government as people poured into the state to send those people back because no country can afford to do it? No country can afford to take in millions of people, pay for their education, their health care, their hospitals. You just can't do it. And we all have a heart. You can't do it. But many of those people are murderers. They're people released from jails, prisons, mental institutions, insane asylums. They're people that are drug dealers. They're addicts. Additionally, starting February 1st, we're not making any payments to sanctuary cities or states having sanctuary cities because they do everything possible to protect criminals at the expense of American citizens, and it breeds fraud and crime and all of the other problems that come. So we're not making any payment to anybody that supports sanctuary cities.
Yes, baby. Okay, now you're talking. Now you're talking. I love it. Don't get me wrong. Please don't misunderstand me. But Mr. President, my friend, what took you so long? This should have been done a year ago. Anyway, look, better late than never. So, to Mayor Wu in Boston, are you listening now? To the crazy mayor, Brandon Johnson in Chicago, are you listening now? Karen Bass in L.A., are you listening now? Jacob Frey in Minneapolis, that lunatic, are you listening now? Mamdani in New York, are you listening now? And look, this is the question we have to ask ourselves. How much longer do we want to continue to finance, fund, subsidize with our taxpayer dollars massive criminality, massive fraud, massive defiance of the law, massive crime? How much longer do we want this to go on? Because that's what we're doing. Every time we keep sending federal money, and I'm talking money for roads, money for bridges, money for schools, money for hospitals. By the way, this may even include food stamps and Medicaid. We're going to see how far President Trump is going to go with this. But now we're talking billions and billions and billions of dollars. It is going to finally, these out of control rogue mayors and rogue governors like Pritzker in Illinois, like Waltz in Minnesota, like Hochul in New York, like Gavin Newsom in California, like Holden Healy here in Massachusetts, they are finally going to pay a price for breaking the law, defying federal immigration law, and as I just said, protecting and coddling violent illegal alien criminals. It's about time. So My point now to Mayor Wu and everyone else is, Marxist Michelle, do we have your attention now? Now it's going to hurt you. Now it's going to really hurt you. And it's going to hurt many of your residents. And they're going to start to ask themselves, finally, is it worth it? Is it worth it? Now, I'm not saying this is the silver bullet. I think we have to do more to rein them in. But let's now be very clear. Now, their defiance, their open illegality, their rebellion, and that's what this is in many instances now. Minnesota is in a state of rebellion. They're making a neo-Confederate argument. This is the neo-Confederacy, that federal law does not apply in Minnesota. It does. That federal authority does not apply in Minnesota. It does. That federal law enforcement cannot operate in Minnesota. It does, and it can. So now there are going to be some real world financial consequences. This is going to really hurt. In fact, it's going to devastate many of these sanctuary jurisdictions. Now, states are going to be affected. Cities are going to be affected. Even certain counties are going to be affected. So this is going to hurt blue jurisdictions across the entire country. On top of all of this, President Trump now has issued a warning to Tim Walz, Tampon Tim, Jacob Frey, the boy mayor, saying the day of reckoning in Minneapolis and Minnesota is coming. I hope so, because if you look at images now that are taking place across Minneapolis, St. Paul, the Twin Cities, it's basically a war zone. I mean, ICE agents are now being attacked. It is wave after wave after wave. Now there are fireworks being thrown at them, frozen water bottles, smashing them in the head, destroying vehicles, smashing windows. By the way, these water bottles can do, they can do serious brain damage, brain injury, concussions. The streets are now basically occupied. Parts of downtown Minneapolis are now autonomous zones. What we have now is a full-blown insurrection. And President Trump now says, okay, you don't want to uphold federal law. You don't want to cooperate with ICE. You want to continue now to protect these criminals. It's going to cost you, and it's going to cost you big. Federal funding will now be pulled. Furthermore, when you just stand back objectively, who are these sanctuary city mayors? Who are these sanctuary state governors protecting? Here, let's just take Minnesota. Who are they protecting? Renee Good, who ended up losing her life, impeding and obstructing a legitimate law enforcement ICE operation. Who did she die protecting? Well, let me just give you a list, okay? A short list of the kinds of people that ICE has been arresting just in the Minneapolis area over the last, say, 10 days. These are the types of criminals. These are illegal alien criminals that ICE now is desperately trying to get off the streets. An individual wanted for raping and sodomizing a young girl. Another individual wanted for raping and sodomizing young boys. A man, an illegal alien, wanted for not one, not two, but 3 murders, 3 homicides. Notorious drug traffickers, people that are peddling fentanyl, cocaine, wife abusers. Another one is a wanted rapist who has raped multiple women. And these are the people that you're defending? If you want, I'll give you their names. This is who ICE is going after. And this is who the left is defending? This is their big sanctuary for these kinds of animals and these kinds of savages? Now, to me, it is very clear that the Democratic Party has now taken its stand. just like they stood with slavery in 1860 and 1861, they are now taking a stand with illegal alien criminals, the worst of the worst, against American citizens, against American law, against American sovereignty, against America itself. And they need to be held accountable, and they need to pay an economic and a political price. And Trump is finally making sure that they pay that price. So I support this, not 100, but 1,000%. And I know it's going to hurt Boston, and I know it's going to hurt Massachusetts, which by extension means it's going to hurt me. But there's got to be consequences to this. Either we're a country or we're not. Either we have the rule of law or we don't. Okay, I want to go right to the phone lines. Let me just say one last final thing, and then I'm going to open it up to the great audience of Kuhner Country. Best audience in the business. What liberals, Democrats, open borders supporters, what they cannot refute is this very simple fact. I gave you just a brief summary of the kind of savage criminals, animals, that ICE is now arresting. Okay? Literally, child rapists, child molesters, murderers, drug dealers, gangbangers. You don't get worse than these kinds of human beings. And so the question is, well, why? Why is ICE having to go into the community? Why do they have to go into neighborhoods? Say, I'm just going to, in southern Minneapolis to arrest these people. Because the answer is Jacob Frey and Tim Walz, I'm just going to use Minnesota and Minneapolis as an example, refused to hand these illegals over at a detention center. If they would just hand them over, again, I'm talking about child rapists, child molesters, murderers, illegal aliens who shouldn't even be in this country, who have been convicted of disgusting, monstrous sex crimes and murders, or are known members of Tren de Aragua or MS-13, or are known, sex traffickers. There's a lot of sex traffickers that they're arresting as well. And, of course, drug dealers. All they have to do is hand them over at a detention center or at a courtroom or at a prison or at a jail or wherever. ICE grabs them, puts on the handcuffs, and bye-bye, they're deported. But instead, because of these sanctuary city policies and these sanctuary jurisdictions, these violent criminals who are a clear threat to you, to me, to public safety, are released back into the community. That's why ICE is in their vehicles hunting them down. Because the likes of Jacob Frey and Tim Walz, or Mamdani and Hochul in New York, or let's go here, Mayor Wu, Marxist Michelle, okay? Mayor Wu and Hold It Healy, the governor, they're deliberately releasing these animals, these criminals, these murderers and rapists back into the community. So now ICE has to go and find them, track them, find them. It's more dangerous for ICE. It's more dangerous even for the illegals. And it's especially more dangerous for people, residents of the community. That's why Donald Trump is saying this is leading to even more crime. Never mind that you now have people like in Boston or whatever, Minneapolis, cities now, New York, full of illegals. Let's take the Somali community in Minneapolis, in which fraud is a way of life, in which they're running fake daycare centers and getting billions of dollars, billions, pouring in, and there's not even a child in their supposed school. In fact, it's a laundromat that they own, or it's a restaurant, or it's their own home, but there's no child. or they're stealing, literally stealing Medicaid, or stealing welfare, or stealing food, literally food lunches, school lunches for kids, for low-income kids. They're just stealing it. So President Trump is saying, and we're going to keep sending taxpayer money, federal, good federal taxpayer dollar after good federal taxpayer dollar. No, enough is enough. I'm cutting off the spigot. I'm giving everybody a heads up. You've got basically 2 weeks. On February 1st, federal funding is going to be cut. We are going to defund sanctuary cities and sanctuary states. And then you tell your people why you're coddling these criminals and these illegals and why they should take priority over American citizens and legal immigrants and legal residents of the United States. So I back this 1,000%. I wish it had been done sooner, but it doesn't matter. It's finally going to be done. Now, my question to you, what do you make of this move by Trump? Should federal funding now be pulled, say, from Boston? Should it be pulled from Minneapolis? Should it be pulled from Minnesota? Should it be pulled from California, Los Angeles, San Francisco? Or is this going to have collateral damage? Inadvertently hurt people like you, like me, who are against illegal immigration. We support the rule of law. We support American sovereignty. But it's going to hurt us because there's going to be less money for us in these blue states or blue jurisdictions. Less money for us for the roads, for bridges, for hospitals, for schools, maybe even food stamps. We'll see. Medicaid, we'll see if that's affected. But some of these other social programs are definitely now going to be cut. And these social services are now going to be cut. So in a way, we're going to feel the pinch as well. We're going to feel the pain as well. How do you feel about that? Are you okay with it? I am, because to me, the law is the law is the law. I would like to see it followed up with arrests. I think these mayors and governors are rogue. I think they're breaking the law. I think they're aiding and abetting law breaking and criminality. I'd like to see more than just cuts in funding, but I'll take the cuts in funding, obviously. But my question to you is, we're all going to feel the pain, at least say here in Massachusetts and in Greater Boston. Are you okay with that? 617-266-6868. Okay, lines are jammed. I'm taking calls right after this break. Okay, Trump now says either get with the law, cooperate with ICE. If not, every sanctuary city, and that includes Boston, every sanctuary state is now going to have their federal funding completely revoked. They will be defunded. So they have 2 weeks. February 1st is the deadline. Agree, disagree. Larry in Arkansas. You're going to kick us off, Larry. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Jeff, it's a great day when you watch Trump give a guy at the Ford factory the finger.
Larry, just as a quick aside, I've got to ask you this. I mean, obviously I want to stay on track, but the fact that, the guy called him, it was hard to hear, but it looks like he called him a pedophile. He called Trump a pedophile protector. It was a kook in the crowd. And, the president had it. And I think he told him F you. I think actually from his lips he said F you. And then he gave the protester, a middle finger. What do you say to the argument? I loved it. I was laughing. To me, it was hilarious. I thought the guy, deserved it. But what do you say to the argument? Trump is the sitting president of the United States. He's the head of government. He's the head of state. That, he shouldn't be giving fellow Americans the middle finger and telling them F you. That it's unpresidential, undiplomatic, and that's what the critics are saying. It lacks class. What do you say to that, Larry?
shouldn't you be showing the President of the United States, the leader of the free world, a lot more respect than you are?
So, in other words, if you want respect, you got to give respect, correct?
Exactly, right. Now, here's how you can tell on a quick aside. They're all hypocrites. For the last, year, we've heard release the files, release the files, release the files, right?
Yes.
Who are they protecting when they're protecting these illegal aliens? How many are chomos? That's the term to use. It's radio friendly. How many of those are wanted for doing bad things to children, and they're protecting them?
Oh, Larry, that's an absolutely brilliant point. Larry, let me ask you, you're dead on, by the way. You're absolutely dead on. Larry, let me ask you something. Do you think, is this going to change behavior? Say Mayor Wu here in Boston. Is she now, with the money, billions of dollars at stake, when the federal money dries up, is she going to say, you know what, let's forget about this whole sanctuary city policy idea? Is she going to backtrack? Do you think others are going to backtrack? Is this going to deter them? Or do you think that they're so fanatical and so radical and so extreme, in for a penny, in for a pound, as the English say, that they're just going to they're going to double, triple down, dig in, and no matter what the cost, they are going to defy Trump all the way? In other words, is this going to change any behavior? Is this going to work? Is this effective to rein these out-of-control mayors and governors?
It's going to be maybe one or two weak ones. They just now have 2 weeks to judge shop, because they're going to sue. They're going to find some nutburger judge who's going to try and stop them. Two things they need to do is they need to put the hammer down even more on these sanctuary cities. I don't mean just by, taking away the tax dollars. I mean, he needs to go in there hard and heavy. The only reason that, in my opinion, that Timmy and that idiot mayor and Elon are fighting so hard, they could care less right now about Minnesota. They could care less about these illegals. They know they're in trouble with the fraud. They're all tied to it. So that's what they're fighting about. I want Trump. He's played nice for far too long, in my opinion. If a radical judge says that he can't do this, because it's going to have to be at least one judge, maybe two, that's going to say universally he can't do it. Because he's not just targeting one city, he's targeting all of them across the country for this, right? The Supreme Court already told them, stop trying to make universal decisions. It's not within your purview. But they're going to do it anyways. Trump needs to say, take me to the Supreme Court. You're not getting your money.
I love it. Larry, I love it. Larry, I think you've laid out the blueprint. Look, and I think you're right. I think it's inevitable now. They're going to judge shop. In fact, a good friend of mine texted me, said, Jeff, here, ask the audience the poll. Not that we're going to do it, but he's being a bit sarcastic. But, let this be the poll question, Jeff. Will Judge Boasberg strike down Trump's order by the end of the show? Is he going to issue a nationwide injunction to prevent Trump from defunding these sanctuary cities by the end of the show? And he goes, my vote is yes. So I think you're right. A Boasberg, whatever, one of these crazy lunatic communist judges, anti-Trump judges, is going to, shoot it down or say, issue a nationwide injunction and block Trump. And I think you're right. Trump should turn around and basically give him the middle finger again, like he did to that protester. Say, F you. Take me to the Supreme Court. I'm done. Supreme Court says you can't issue a nationwide injunction. You can't do this anymore. You want to do it. You're in defiance of the Supreme Court. You sue. You take me to the Supreme Court. Bye. The money is being cut off. Larry, you've laid it out, and I hope Trump does it. He's got the winning hand. To use his analogy, he's got the cards. He's got to start playing them. Arthur in Chestnut Hill. Thanks for holding, Arthur, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. That caller is exactly what I was going to say. Is that this protesting against ICE is to cover have a distraction from the greater problem here, the theft of all this money. When you start stealing billions and trillions of dollars in aid, it's not fraud anymore. It's the biggest robbery ever of this country, and look who they took the money from: children who need it. There's no, these pedophiles that ISIS is trying to arrest and get out of this country. That's a pretty low form of scum. But the kind of people that steal from children and say that it's for children, you can't get lower than that. And this has been going on for so long. These people, I thought I saw a report where he wants all the Somalians out of here by March 17th. Well, that's going to be a little tough. But you know what? That's what you have to do. You have to get all the Somalians out of this country. They say the fraud in Ohio is bigger than the fraud in Minnesota. California's fraud, okay, is bigger than that, and that's by the government. And Newsom keep taking money that he doesn't do anything with. All over the country, they've stolen our money. And regular American citizens who could use some assistance, they can't get it. They can't get. You try and call up and try to get some aid for some people who require it. I don't know. There is one tax. I've wanted to put this out there for a long time. There should be a time in this country. Well, when veterans and senior citizens get a cutoff date for paying property taxes on their homes, okay, they shouldn't be having to pay property taxes for the rest of their lives. That's disgusting because they may not have the money. I just wanted to put that out there for a minute. But Somalians are the same people. We have a short memory. They're the same people who turned around and shot down our helicopter that during Mogadishu and the Black Hawk Down, and they took our heroes and dragged them through the streets like garbage. And we brought these people into this country, and we have a lot of Somalians here in Massachusetts. We have Somalian fraud already that's been exposed in Maine. We're electing Somalians. There is no reason in the world that we allow these people to even be in Congress. And it's not just people like Elon.
Oh, you're completely right. Look, you're right. Look, it's in Lewiston, Maine. Okay, President Trump now makes one of the biggest moves of his entire presidency. He announced yesterday at the Detroit Economic Club that he will now be pulling all federal payments, all funding to sanctuary cities, sanctuary states, and of course that includes Boston. Boston is right up there, high on the list. Already, Mamdani has responded, the mayor of New York, the Islamo-communist mayor, saying now New York, his words, is at war with President Trump and with the federal government. He now says that he will sue President Trump, and he is going to openly side with criminal illegal aliens and continue to demand that they receive our taxpayer money, our federal funding, rather than assist Trump and ICE in deporting them. So there you have it. Already, you are now seeing even more of an insurrection in the wake of Trump's decision to pull all federal funding. Mamdani now says this is going to be a fight to the end. 617-266-6868. Bill in Sudbury. Thanks for holding, Bill, and welcome.
Hello, good morning. Good morning, Jeff. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Bill. All the best to you and your family.
Congratulations. You must be very pleased. After 10 years, you've finally found an edifice of America that you can stand behind, that you can, someplace that's not part of the deep state. But unfortunately, it's the only place that's not part of the deep state. And unfortunately, they had to wear a mask and point a gun at you to get your, allegiance like that.
Bill, honestly, I have no idea what you just said. I have no idea. I can tell you that, the deep state is real. Everybody admits that it's real. The New York Times, the Washington Post. I mean, I could go on and on. It's a term that's been used for 60 years now by scholars. So, and it includes the CIA. It includes the intelligence community. It includes the permanent bureaucracy. So this is a term that's been used by left, right, center, going back 60 years. I don't know why the deep state, that term bothers you. It shouldn't, but let that go. I'm talking about defunding cities, sanctuary cities and sanctuary states. It is a policy that I have advocated for a very long time. You're right. I do feel triumphant today. I do. I've been asking for this. I've been calling for this. It's finally going to happen. But it's a policy, Bill, that is supported by the overwhelming majority of the American people. Believe it or not, it's even a policy that's supported by the majority of people in Massachusetts. Not by moonbats like yourself, not by hardcore leftist Democrats, but by independents, by conservatives, by Republicans, by moderate Democrats. People don't want to see our taxpayer dollars go to illegal aliens. And we don't want to see the rule of law being violated. And so my question to you is a very simple one. Why do you not want the city of Boston to deport murderers, child molesters, and rapists who happen to be in this country illegally? I'm asking you a very simple question. ICE has detainers for all of them. Michelle Wu doesn't want to hand them over. So why? Why are you willing to defend illegal aliens who are child molesters, murderers, and rapists? Can you explain that to me, Bill?
You willing to ignore the menacing mistreatment of citizens, Americans, regular Americans, in furtherance of your fever dream that there's 50 million rapists out there. We already know that we can't do. Stephen Miller just wants 3,000 bodies per day. He doesn't care whether they're rapists or anything. By the way, that lady in the car, not a rapist, not a killer, not an illegal alien, none of those things. So when you say that, what that is that's a rhetorical device that you use to hide behind, to defend the indefensible. You say, oh, if you oppose that lady getting shot in the face, that means you're with the killers. That's like saying, because you it's just crazy. It's absolutely crazy that the only people in America, according to you, who can be trusted implicitly, they're open to no public review of any kind, is ICE. That's it. That's the one edifice of America that you trust implicitly.
No, I've never said that. No, I've never said that. Look, and this is the problem, Bill. You see, you're making stuff up. Number one, I never said that Renee Good was a murderer or a rapist. I'll tell you what she was. She was a political vigilante and a domestic terrorist. She was coddling and protecting illegal alien criminals in Minneapolis. And she obstructed and impeded a legitimate law enforcement operation. And in the process, she tried to run over an ICE agent, and he had the right to defend himself. Period, full stop. It was a legitimate self-defense shooting. Now, but you didn't answer my question. So now you're telling me that there are no illegal alien murderers, sex predators, and child rapists. Is that what you're trying to tell me? I just want to get your position.
Say there's not 50 million of them.
Well, it doesn't matter. No, but Bill, there are 30 to 40 million illegal aliens. They came into this country illegally. They're illegal. That's why they should be deported. And a portion of them are violent and they're deadly. And they need to be taken off the streets. And sanctuary cities are coddling and protecting them. That's what your mayor is doing. That's what your party is doing. And I asked you 5 minutes ago, but you can't answer. Why do you want to protect these criminal illegals? You can't give me an answer. And you're putting their interests above that of me and American citizens. But I want to go back to something else you said, because this goes to the heart of the lie. You said that they're just grabbing 3,000 people off the streets. They don't care if they're citizens or not. That American citizens are being falsely detained and arrested and deported by ICE. That's what you said. Name me one American citizen that has been put in jail or deported under ICE. Not 3,000, not 1,000, not 50. Name me just one. One American citizen that ICE has illegally arrested, imprisoned, and deported. Go. Name me, just give me one. Go.
That lady in the car. That lady in the car. No, they didn't imprison her. They killed her, Jeff, because she offended them.
No,
She's the wrong team. Yes.
She was telling them to go F themselves all morning. They didn't kill her because she offended them. They killed her because she was impeding and obstructing law enforcement. And then when they told her to get out of the car and she was arrested, she resisted arrest. She resisted a lawful command. And then what did she do, Bill? What did she do? You saw the video. She backed up her car, 2 tons. It's a weapon. And she hit the accelerator. And the ICE agent was right in front of her. And she was going to ram him. In fact, she hit him. And had he not shot her, she would have run him over. So don't tell me that she was shot because, quote unquote, she offended ICE. That's a lie. It's a bald-faced lie. And because of this lie, that woman is dead. Because of this lie, Minneapolis is being destroyed in front of our eyes. And now you have people who are rampaging on the streets, openly calling for violence, civil war, and murder against ICE agents. And you're telling me I'm the election denier? Get this through your thick skull. You lost. President Trump won. And he won fair and square. And at the cornerstone of his mandate was to deport illegal aliens. So, the last time I checked, Bill, Minnesota has not seceded from America. You can't just defy federal law enforcement, federal sovereignty, and the federal government. But, Bill, to me, it's like arguing with you the sky is blue. No matter how many times I point to you that it's blue, you're going to tell me it's purple. And that's the difference between you and me. We live in 2 different worlds, in 2 different realities. I live in America. You have left America. Thank you for that call, Bill. Dane in Florida. Thanks for holding, Dane, and welcome.
Finally, President Trump, finally. This move, Jeff, by President Trump should be seen as actually an unofficial declaration of civil war against these communist Democrats. And another thing, for these people who say stopping federal funding is going to hurt us, you can't hurt me any more than you already have and what you've done. Okay, just in the neighborhood down here in Florida, a family neighborhood, a pedophile has been working as a landscaper, cutting grass for families for 5 years already. Okay, since Biden came in, they finally come and got him and arrested him and put him on Alcatraz Island. Okay, you can see how long these people have been criminalizing pedophile, cutting people's families' lawns under their own homes. So stuff like this has to stop. And myself, I'm 73. I'm working. I had to go back to work. I'm working with an HB1 worker. That worker, I'm telling you, has the same job as I do, does the same exact thing, but he gets paid more. He doesn't have to do certain things. He gets transportation to work. He gets a place provided to live. He gets everything provided to him. I don't get any of that. Now, where is the fairness in that? This is insane, this stuff that's happening to us. Thank God President Trump has done this. And one more thing, President Trump, while you're at it, if Pam Bondi doesn't want to arrest these treasonous governors and mayors, tell her she's fired. That's what I have to say.
Well, Dane, there are now media reports coming out that privately he's starting to complain. That his words, I'm just going by what the media is reporting, so take it with a grain of salt, but apparently in private, he's calling Pam Bondi weak, ineffective. He doesn't understand why she's not making a lot of arrests. He thinks she's being way too passive, and he wants to see a much more aggressive, proactive Department of Justice. So, and the thing about Trump is when he turns on someone, he turns. He really turns. So I think Pam Bondi could be in trouble. We'll see. But I'm with you, Dane. Look, she's got to move. Look, it's an open insurrection now. You got anti-ICE protests in Minneapolis because of stupid stuff, the lies that people like Bill and Sudbury are peddling, that this was an innocent woman who was just shot in the face because ICE was offended, because ICE just wanted to, shoot a woman for the sake of shooting a woman. Okay, that kind of incitement, that kind of blatant lie is now leading to you've got violence breaking out, you've got violent protests breaking out, you've got riots breaking out. I mean, Minneapolis is a powder keg. And ICE agents now are being pelted. They're being attacked. They're being swarmed. Now they have more cars that are trying to ram into them. I mean, it's getting out of control. The city is about to blow. And this has got to stop. And what the left can't answer is if my local police where I live was in the process of arresting a drug dealer, or a child rapist, or a child molester, and I decide, well, no, I don't like the way the police are operating, or I don't want them in my neighborhood, and I come in and I interfere with their legitimate law enforcement operation, and I put my car and I start blocking them, and I start telling them, get lost, you want to come and get me? Come and get me. Hey, go get some lunch, big boy. And I start defying them when they tell me get out of the car, you're under arrest, and I try to run one of them over, yeah, I'm going to get shot. Anybody's going to get shot. Duh. And Dane, this is the part that to me blows my mind. Obama deported 3 million illegal aliens. 3 million. By the way, the policy of family separation, it was under Obama. Putting some of these people in cages, that was under Obama. But when the dear leader did it, not one protest. Bill never complained. No. Hey, not one leftist complained. Not one mayor complained. Not one governor complained. Then the Democrats had no problem. It was the dear leader. The media, it was the dear leader. He can do whatever he wants. But if it's Trump implementing his mandate, which was he was elected to do this, secure the border and start deporting violent, criminal, illegal aliens. All of a sudden, now they're saying it's war. So they're election deniers, and they don't have the right to nullify an election, and they don't have the right to overthrow the will of the people. And mayors and governors have to abide by the law. And to me, there is no such thing as a sanctuary city. They've made that up, Dane. That doesn't exist. What they're saying is we're not abiding by the law. That's it. We're lawless. We're not recognizing federal law, federal sovereignty, federal authority. To me, that's an insurrection. That's the definition of an insurrection. Hell, it's treason. So cut their federal funding, cut it all, and if they continue, arrest them. Enough. And Dane, you're right. Why should illegals be given, and this is what Bill and Sudbury and all these other moonbats are too afraid to call in, okay? At least Bill has the guts to call in. And answer me this question. How are they entitled to free housing? How are they entitled to free health care? How are they entitled to free education? How are they entitled? How are these Somalis who are here illegally, why do they get food stamps? Why are they getting $2,000 checks every single month? Can somebody explain this to me? How come they can get prepaid Visa cards? Because I'll bet you dollars to donuts. Government never gave you free public housing. Government never gave you free health care. The government never gave you $2,000 checks. The government never gave you free food. Dane, am I wrong?
Oh, God. You really got to listen, Jeff. I'm surprised they haven't charged me for breathing air yet. I've never gotten free nothing from the government other than a big fat tax bill every year, the taxes I pay to supply all the free stuff that they get. I'm sick and tired of it. The country's at critical mass. Something has to be done. President Trump is making the right moves. Put the metal to the pedal to the metal, and really step on it hard and heavy now. We cannot take any more. The country can't take any more. Something has to be done to stop this insanity, pure insanity.
Amen.
Okay?
Amen. Dane, you're not 100. You're 1,000% correct. And thank you for that call, Dane. Scott Bessent, okay? This is yesterday, was widely reported. Scott Bessent came out, put together graphs and charts. He says they just did a study at the Department of the Treasury, the Treasury Department, from 2018 to 2022. And the reason why they picked those 5 years, is they have all of the data, okay, 100% of the data. From 2018 to 2022, listen to this. They say bare minimum $350 to $400 billion in fraud, in welfare fraud. 350 to 400 billion. Take it to the bank. That's the conservative lowball estimate in sweeping welfare fraud. They're stealing. Illegals are claiming welfare they're not entitled to. By the way, it's not just illegals. You also have American citizens who are claiming, there's dead bodies, and they're claiming the social security numbers of dead bodies. And so they're getting, welfare being sent to them, or social security being sent to them, or whatever. But the point is, there is $350 billion to $400 billion a year in fraud. Phony daycare centers, scamming school lunch programs, scamming food stamps, scamming Medicaid. It goes on and on and on. As Bessent said, in 2018, the level of fraud was 10% of the entire federal budget in 2018. Now, Elon Musk said Bessent is right, but Bessent is doing lowball, safe, cautious, conservative estimates. He says, my Doge people are looking at this and saying, no. It's really closer to $700 billion a year in welfare fraud, overwhelmingly towards illegals, i.e., in particular, say, Minnesota, the Somali community. There's billions, $9 billion washing just in the Somali community alone, $9 billion. So many of you are going to say to me, well, Jeff, why is Jacob Frey allowing Minneapolis to implode? Because that's what's happening. It's imploding. Why is Tim Walz telling the police literally stand down? In fact, ICE is being swarmed, attacked, surrounded. They're calling for backup. There's no backup. The police, the local state police, are telling ICE, you're on your own, under orders from the mayor and under orders from the governor. Why? Because this was the implicit bargain for years. They brought in a new voter base into Minnesota. The old Scandinavians that used to vote Democrats, they weren't voting for the Democrats anymore. And the Democrats were going to lose. So to keep power, they had to bring in new voters. And they brought in an army of Somalis. And they put them on welfare. And that was the exchange. You guys go on welfare. You guys scam all these social programs. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, 7:20-ish Wednesday. You know what that means. Truth or troll. Take it away, Mike.
And now, America's favorite game show, where you get to decide on the Kuhner Report. This is Truth or Troll.
All right, today's edition of Truth or Troll comes from President Trump speaking at the Detroit Economic Club yesterday when he decides to go after Joe Biden for his speeches during his presidency. Here's what Trump had to say.
You know, when you go up here, you take a big chance, especially me, because I go off teleprompter about 80% of the time. But isn't it nice to have a president that can go off teleprompter? Don't you think? Remember the speeches Joe would make? First of all, they'd last a matter of seconds, you know. Thank you very much. You ever notice Joe would always cough before a speech? State of the Union, he gets, ladies and gentlemen. And then it would be like very short. Although the one time they had him spruced up pretty good. Remember, he was high as a kite. He was floating. He was up there way up. That was a bad speech.
All right, so Trump says that Joe Biden was high as a kite during his speeches. Is he trolling or is he just telling the truth?
Oh, Mike, you know what? I think this could be the best truth or troll so far. You got me. Mike, you stumped me. I'm serious. You've done it, dude. You've done it. I don't know. I mean, was he high as a kite? Yes. So it was the truth. On the other hand, is he sticking it to Biden and mocking him and trolling him? Yes. I mean, Mike, I can't give you an answer. I could go truth. I could go troll. I mean, we need a C, both. Mike, do we have a C, both?
We do not.
We do not.
But I mean, if you think about it, Biden did have easy access to certain supplements, I would say.
Oh, yeah. And Mike, I mean, sometimes, you saw it as well. I mean, his eyes were like a beetle and he would talk so fast. You know, he'd be like, blah, 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 blah. You're like, what did he just say? So you could tell that, I don't know what they put him on, but they had him juiced up. I mean, as Trump said, he was high and high as a kite. So that's the thing about Trump. That's why he's so funny. Because it's like, yeah, like when he said, you know, Denmark has 2 dog sleds protecting Greenland. You know, you laugh, but it's kind of true. That's the thing with him. It's always truth and troll at the same time. Oh, Mike. I'm going to have to go with A. I'm going to have to go with truth, but you really could go either way on this one. Okay, Mike, dynamite, truth or troll. All right, let me ask all of you, truth or troll? President Trump said Biden was high as a kite, often when he gave speeches. Was this A, truth? Or B, is he just mocking and trolling Biden? just undressing the guy. This could be 50-50. I would not be shocked. Anyway, I want to hear from you. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner. Kuhn is in national ER. You can also vote via X, and man, was I active last night. I was tweeting like there's no tomorrow. Anyway, so I was very active on X. You can vote there as well. My handle, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, at the Kuhner Report, Kuhner. Denise in Beverly. Thanks for holding, Denise. And welcome.
Hi, Jeff. How you been? I've been out with a knee replacement and haven't been calling in very much. But you were talking about the federal stuff being cut and stuff. I just got my recertification. I am on Section 8. I'm 70 years old, and I raised 2 kids by myself, so I never got child support or anything from anybody. So the Democrats didn't do nothing to them, you know what I mean? So I work 30 hours a week 'cause I have to, because I don't make enough money on Social Security to live on. And so I had to do my recertification the other day, this for this year. And the housing told me that there's been a lot of changes in the federal government. They raised my rent $103 already. But I don't know if she's going to do it again. But it is hurting the people that really need it. But I understand what Trump's doing. You know what I mean? Like, I understand that, you know, the illegals that got all the free stuff is hurting the people that really need it. You know what I'm saying? And and there's something else I wanted to tell you. That guy Bill's crazy, for one thing. And I wrote a letter to the newspaper, and it was about that girl. And are you there?
Go ahead, Denise. I'm listening to every word.
All right. And I just wanted to read the letter I wrote. I said, I'm writing this letter to let the people that did not vote for Trump and all the Democrats, and especially Massachusetts, don't these people
Denise, can you do me a favor? Hang on. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, we're going to go right back to Denise and Beverly, but before we do, it's obviously the big story of the hour, of the day, really of the moment. President Trump yesterday at the Detroit Economic Club essentially threw down the gauntlet, telling all sanctuary cities and sanctuary states, and of course this includes Boston and Massachusetts, but not only, California, Minnesota, New York, I could go on, that he will now pull all federal funding to sanctuary cities and sanctuary states. No more federal payments of any kind. And so my question to you is, Trump's decision now to withhold or defund sanctuary cities and sanctuary states, is it A, cruel, which is what the Democrats are essentially arguing, or is it B, necessary? Necessary to prevent all of these welfare and social programs to be going to illegals, because they're getting a lot of these federal funds, and to finally force these mayors to cooperate with ICE so that these illegals can either be forced to leave or be deported and kicked out of our country. In other words, is it cruel or is it necessary to finally end the scourge of illegal immigration? A, cruel. B, necessary. You can vote on our webpage, WRKO.com/Kuhner, WRKO.com/Kuhner, KUHN is in National ER. You can also vote via X. My handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, at the Kuhner Report. KUHN is in National ER. And as always, the Kuhner Country Poll question of the day is sponsored by Mario's. Mario's quality roofing, siding, and windows. Is it cruel or is it necessary? You know my position. It's necessary, and I'd like for Trump to do even more, like arrest some of these sanctuary city mayors and governors, but defunding is a great first step. That's me. I want to hear from you. Let's go right back to Denise. Denise, you're 70 years old. You're on public housing, Section 8 housing. It was hard for you to get Section 8 because so much of it is given to illegals. They then raised your rent another $103. You're on a fixed income. Inflation is obviously killing you. You have to work now, 30 hours a week just to help supplement your income. Unlike illegals, you can't just sit home all day and get $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month in cash, plus food stamps, plus free housing, plus free health care, plus free everything. You're an American, so you got to work and you got to pay for everything. And so you wrote a letter to your local newspaper in defense of Trump and what ICE was doing in Minneapolis and the fatal shooting of Renee Good. Please pick up where you left off.
Yeah. First of all, Jeff, I don't understand. We have to show 3 months of bank statements. We have to show all our income proof, work proof, everything. So don't they have to do that too to the illegals? I don't understand this. But and as far as the letter, I know I don't have to read it, but those people didn't grieve over Sarah Root and Jocelyn Gray and Lake and Riley. No one grieved over her. No one grieved over them when they were murdered by those people. But that woman that blocked the traffic, that like she rammed right into the cop, and everybody can see it on the video. She resisted the cop, so I don't feel sorry for her at all. And I think it's crazy, and there's so much more I want to tell you. My God, I'm just like beside myself with that.
Well, no, Denise, you're completely right, and this is what I find really disgusting. When Bill in Sudbury, and to be fair, it's not just him, he's just mouthing the Democrat talking point. This is what, Tim Walz is saying. This is what Frey is saying. This is what Mamdani is saying. This is what the Boston Globe is saying, what Healy, what Wu. They're all like parrots, and it's a lie. And they know it's a lie. It's a monstrous lie. It's an incendiary, inflammatory lie that ICE shot her for the hell of it. That ICE shot her, as Bill put it, because she, quote, offended them. Well, no. The streets were full of protesters, including her, by the way, and her lesbian wife, who were stalking ICE for hours and dropping F-bomb after F-bomb after F-bomb. They were harassing ICE. They were spitting on ICE. They were swearing at ICE. They were obstructing ICE. And then finally, when ICE had to move to make a raid, by the way, on a child sex predator, they were moving in on a rapist. Okay? A rapist. And they said, get out of the way. You're blocking the road on purpose. And she refused multiple times. They said, get out of the way. Then they said, get out of the car. You're under arrest. And she refused to comply with a lawful order from a police officer. She was resisting arrest, as her car was deliberately impeding and obstructing ICE as they were about to make an arrest, an operation to go after these illegal Somalis. And then the lesbian wife was beside the SUV, then tells Renee Good, drive, baby, drive. In other words, get out of here. Evade ICE, evade the arrest. And the idiot, I'm sorry, but she's an idiot, Renee Good backs up the car and then hits the gas pedal. And of course, the ICE agent, not the one that was telling her to get out of the car and pulling on her door handle, but the one that walked up right in front, she hit him. But had he not jumped to the side and shot her, she would have run him over. She would have crushed him. So, this idea that, ICE is just going around bang, 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 just shooting people. It's not just false. It's not just 1,000% bull crap, but it's so inflammatory. It's what's leading now to people losing their minds on the streets of Minneapolis and turning that city into a war zone. Where now you have, they're preventing ICE from literally being able to go after illegals, to go after these violent criminals. Hotels are being destroyed. You got people rampaging. They're calling for ICE to be killed. They're calling for ICE to be burned alive. They're ramming their cars into ICE vehicles. They're starting to try to ram ICE agents. They're hitting them, they're pelting them, they're kicking them, they're stomping them, they're punching them. This, because of these monstrous lies. So I'm sorry, had Renee Good not obstructed ICE, she wouldn't have been killed. Had Renee Good simply got out of the car as she was instructed to, she wouldn't have been killed. Had she not resisted arrest, she wouldn't have been killed. Look, in the end, there are two people to blame for what happened. Renee Good and her lesbian wife, Rebecca Good. And apparently now they're investigating Rebecca Good for being complicit in the murder of Renee Good. And I'm saying, yes, they should look into charges because she was helping her wife obstruct ICE and impede ICE and aid and abet in what Renee Good was doing. Now, what I don't understand, and by the way, there are now articles being written about this. It is the rise of the anti-police, anti-ICE soccer moms. These are women like Renee Good in their 30s and 40s with children. Renee Good happened to be a lesbian or a bisexual or whatever, but others are married to men, right? So it's not a question of having a lesbian partner or a male husband. They are married. They have children, many of them 2 or 3 children who are in school playing soccer, whatever. And yet somehow they think it's okay to go after ICE and to interfere and sabotage and undermine ICE as they're trying to arrest violent, criminal, illegal alien thugs. There's another, for example, just yesterday, there was a mother who tried to ram an ICE agent, literally tried to run him over, and then boxed him, this one ICE agent, in between her car and another parked vehicle, and she was trying to inch her car to crush him. And they had to smash the passenger window and grab this crazy woman out of the car, and they arrested her. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I know many of you know this, okay? For most of this audience, great audience, well-informed audience, you know this. But let me just, for everybody listening, just take a call. I promise the lines are full. I'm going to go to the phone lines. But I just want to give you a couple of names. And these are some of the criminal aliens that ICE now has been seeking to arrest or have arrested in the face of this massive opposition over the last week to 10 days in Minneapolis. Okay, this is in Minneapolis. These are the kinds of people that they are, that these protesters are defending. Okay, hold on. I'm having a little trouble here. All right, I'll tell you what. Let me take a few calls and I'll come back. But I want to give to you some of their names, and not just their names, but what they're wanted for. And I think it's going to shock many, many, many of you. Just how violent these people are, how dangerous these people are. So, okay, in fact, my computer's working now. So here's one of them, just to give you an example. These are the kinds of people that they have been arresting over the last about week, okay? About, let's say, week to 10 days. This one is an illegal alien from Laos. His name is Sriudorn Favin. He was convicted. He's an illegal. They finally arrested him in Minneapolis. He was convicted of strong-arm sodomy of a boy and strong-arm sodomy of a girl, as well as other aggravated sex offenses. Remember, convicted. 9 counts of larceny, unauthorized use of a vehicle, 4 counts of fraud, vehicle theft, 2 counts of drug possession, obstructing justice, receiving stolen property, burglary, check forgery. Anyway, he's a convicted child molester, okay? He likes to rape and sodomize kids. He had a deportation order since 2018. Since 2018, they've been looking for this guy. He was in Minneapolis. They finally got him. But before they could get him, anti-ICE activists like Renee Good were trying to prevent ICE from capturing and arresting this guy. Now, I can give you more. Tu Vang, another illegal immigrant, illegal alien from Laos, was convicted of sexual assault. Remember now, convicted, not even accused, convicted. Sexual assault, sodomy of a girl under the age of 13, and procuring a child for prostitution. He had a deportation order since 2006. For 19 years, they've been trying to get this guy. Okay, here's another one. Just a few more, just to give you a taste. This is who they're defending. This is who Rene Good died for. Chong Vu, or Vue, anyway, V-U-E, another one from Laos, was convicted of the strong-arm rape of a 12-year-old girl and kidnapping a child with intent to sexually assault her. Again, convicted. Deportation order since 2004. Okay. Ji Yang, another illegal from Laos. I mean, wait, is Laos dumping all of their sex predators and child molesters? What are they, just dumping them into our country or what? Anyway, so he's another one from Laos. Convicted of strong-arm rape, aggravated assault with a weapon, and strangulation. So he likes to rape and strangle young girls. He's had a deportation order since 2012. Okay, here's another illegal from Laos. Pao Chua Zhang. He was convicted of rape and child fondling. He had a deportation order since 2003. Kuhner, another illegal from Laos, was convicted of rape, then was convicted of raping someone else, but with a weapon. And then he was also convicted of a separate sexual assault. He's had a deportation order, check this out, since 1996. 30 freaking years this guy's been in our country rampaging and raping. Okay, finally, someone who isn't from Laos. Hernan Cortez Valencia. He's an illegal from Mexico. Was convicted of sexual assault of a child and DUI. He's had a deportation order since 2016. Let me just do one more. I could go on. There's dozens and dozens. It just goes on. That's just over the last 10 days. This one is Abdirashid Adosh Elmi from Somalia. Illegal. He was convicted of homicide. He's a murderer. Convicted murderer. Let me just get you this one. Here. Last one. Promise. Gilberto Salguero Landaverde. He's from El Salvador, an illegal. Convicted homicide, 3 counts. He's a mass murderer. He murdered 3 people, 3 homicides. Okay? 3 freaking homicides. He's had a deportation order since June of 2025. So, you've got mass murderers, you've got child rapists, you've got child molesters, you've got gangbangers. By the way, you should see the drug traffickers. Oh my God, it just goes on. It just goes on and on and on. So, they're burning Minneapolis to protect these people. Jacob Frey and Tim Waltz are telling ICE to get out of Minnesota to protect these people. Those rioters and insurrectionists that are tearing up hotels and swarming and assaulting and violently attacking ICE agents are protecting these people. And these soccer moms that are now all using their cars as weapons against ICE. You mean what? You like to protect child molesters? Like what? You want them to rape your child? You want them to, forgive me, sodomize your child? That's what you want? That's what you're defending? That's what you're protecting? And I just want to go back to what Larry from Arkansas, formerly Larry from Leominster, said, first caller of the day. Notice the liberal media now, the Democrats, about the Epstein files. We can't protect pedophiles, like they ever cared about Epstein before, because he was one of theirs. Top-notch Democrat donor, okay? But let that go. You claim to care about the victims. Well, what about these child rapists? What about these pedophiles? So what? If they're not a billionaire and you can't use him to embarrass Trump, what, you don't care? You mean if they come from Laos or El Salvador or Mexico or Somalia, then it's okay if they rape our children? That's good? You like that? Every illegal alien must be deported from the United States. And what these sanctuary city mayors and governors are doing is abominable and unconscionable. This is who you're coddling and protecting? Mr. President, you should have cut all funding a long time ago. But as I like to say, better late than never. Cut all federal funding and squeeze and squeeze and squeeze, because these people have to be kicked out of our country. By the way, how do they make us better? This is making us better? This is turning us into a third world hellhole. And so, just so that you know, they've been arrested over the last week to 10 days by ICE. And it's several hundred of them. It's a massive list in the teeth and in the face of massive opposition and violent protests by the left and the Democrats and the political leaders of Minnesota. John in Rhode Island. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff, how you doing? Glad to see Trump is making this move. My guess is it's going to end up in some court like everything else here. I read an article, very interesting article, and I've heard this over the last few weeks, that something like 80 to 90% of the municipalities in the entire state of Minnesota, and the mayors are very upset about it, the property taxes are going up by 8 to 9%. And the mayors are on the side of the people, and they say it's due to unfunded mandates. And here's my point. If this thing with Trump fails at the court level, if guys like Soros from far away can organize these protests, and they do, we should have some entity organizing a property tax strike in the entire state. And that would bring down Tim Walz to his knees and Jacob Frey, because the only way they're able to get up there and be emboldened is that they have the money of the property owners. The property owners don't want the illegal aliens. Those are unfunded mandates. And there should be a statewide effort in every municipality to say, if you don't let ICE enforce the law, we're not paying our property taxes. That's my point, Jim.
Oh, you're dead on. Look, I think it's going to come to that if there's no lawful way to get these rogue mayors and governors to comply with federal immigration law and put their citizens first, which is what they're supposed to do, then we're going to have to take matters into our own hands. And I think it's going to be probably, as you're talking, a tax revolt. We're just going to stop paying our taxes. And that's going to, you're right, as you put it, it's going to bring them to their knees. Now, look, I'll be brutally honest with you, John. There's going to be a nationwide injunction. We know that. There's going to be a judge. It's inevitable. But I think Trump now has to really stand firm and say, no, not this time. Not this time. Sue me, take me to the Supreme Court. The money stops. The money stops, period. There's no more federal funding. You're on your own. Make up the massive shortfall and deficit. Go ahead. Go ahead. He can't let some dinky judge, some left-wing activist masquerading as a judge, prevent him from implementing the mandate that he was given by the American people. And if this goes, and I believe it will go to the Supreme Court, I think there's no choice now. The Supreme Court has to weigh in. The Supreme Court has to rule, and they will rule, 6-3 easy, that these mayors and these governors cannot obstruct ICE. Period. Full stop. So, if I were Trump, fast track it if you have to the Supreme Court, because they're clearly in the wrong. They're legally in the wrong. They're morally in the wrong. They're constitutionally in the wrong. They don't have a leg to stand on. But if we can't get reprieve legally, lawfully, constitutionally, then you're right. Look, John, if I'm living in Minneapolis and I'm a homeowner, I would be livid. Burglaries are way through the roof. Home invasions are through the roof. Carjackings are through the roof. I mean, the stats don't lie. Homicides are up. Rapes are up. Your city is overwhelmed with illegals. Money is being stolen left, right, and center by these Somali pirates and by the Democrats in power. And now your local and state police won't even keep these rioters off the streets. And my taxes are going through the roof for what? What am I paying my taxes for? I'm paying taxes for illegals and for Democrat politicians to steal? That's what I'm paying for? That's what I'm working for? I don't think so. Now, what's not being reported, John, and you can take it to the bank if you want. I read a great blog. It's called Powerline, and it's written by a couple of brilliant conservatives. They're actually based in Minnesota. In fact, in Minneapolis. I had one of them on, John Hinderraker. He's a brilliant man. He's based out of Minneapolis. They're reporting, not just now, but over the last couple of years, on what's happened to that, what used to be an unbelievably pristine, beautiful state. One of the most well-run states in the country. I mean, safe streets, immaculate lawns, world-class education. I mean, Minnesota, nice. People were just salt of the earth. I was there 15 years ago when I adopted my Ashton. I've never met nicer people in my life. If anything, they're too nice. Like, you almost feel like, geez, you're at a stop sign, they get before you, and they're waving you to go on. I'm cutting them off on the road because, you're Boston driving, how we are here. And I feel like, geez, they're so nice. Like, why am I doing this? I'm driving aggressively and everyone's like, no, you can go. It's so, and I'm like, I'm taking advantage of their niceness. Okay. But anyway, let that go. I was there 15 years ago. I mean, you could see the Somali presence then and the illegals then, but holy mackerel. Whoa. In the last 15 years. Ay. So, if I'm living in Minnesota, this is the dirty secret. People now can't even sell their homes in parts of Minneapolis, St. Paul. Nobody wants them. So these were homes that used to be worth $400,000, $500,000, $600,000. Now you can't give them away because there's so much crime and lawlessness. So, the middle class is getting not just screwed, they're abandoned, they're betrayed. And if there's one thing I want to lay out and I promise I'm going to come back to you, John, don't think that Frey or Waltz or Ellison or Ilhan Omar or those crazies on the streets speak for the people of Minneapolis and especially the people of Minnesota. Because poll after poll shows the silent majority is with Trump, is with ICE, is with us. They want ICE there. They don't want, I gave you the list, just a brief list of the kind of people they've been arresting over the last week. They don't want these animals in their communities. They want them out. So, and by the way, voter fraud, you think it's bad here in Massachusetts or in Rhode Island where you are, John. They got it down to a science there in Minneapolis. I mean, the voter fraud is rampant. And that's one of the reasons why the Democrats continue control. But my point is, the people there don't want what the left is imposing on them. Because their schools are overrun, their hospitals are overrun, their social programs are overrun, their homes are overrun, their neighborhoods are overrun. And so, John, look, no, my question to you is something different. What if it has to be a tax revolt? What if property owners like you and like me say enough? I'm not going to keep sending all of my hard-earned money to be squandered on illegal aliens and fraud and these Democrat politicians who are stealing left, right, and center. I don't know if we're going to get the same kind of protections that illegals do. My worry is if we go down this road, they're going to come after us. The left, the Democrats, they're going to arrest us. And we're not the kind of people that take to the streets. That's what the Democrats do. So, that's the thing. These illegals have their protectors. Who's going to protect you and who's going to protect me, John, if we should start withholding our property taxes? I mean, isn't that the danger we're opening ourselves up to? That we could all go to jail, that they'll just start locking us up left, right, and center? John, what say you?
Effort where they use maybe online some kind of survey to get a commitment in advance, and they use this if the courts don't back them up. The other thing I want to tell you real quick, my cousin lives in Minneapolis. He sent me something this morning. Jacob Frey has put on their website, on the Minneapolis website, these downloadable, printable signs for owners or anybody who lives in Minneapolis to put on their front lawn that says, ICE cannot use my property to create enforcements. So it's an open insurrection. He's giving people signage that they can put in their windows that says ICE not welcome here. ICE cannot, ICE can't be on my lawn, that type of thing. This is the mayor himself that is actively insurrecting and getting his people to disobey the law. I mean, he should be arrested just for that.
John, from your lips to God's ears. As you were talking, I was thinking, arrest him. That's all I kept saying, arrest him. He's begging to be arrested. Arrest him. John, thank you so much. Dynamite call. CJ in Boston. Thanks for holding, CJ, and welcome.
Morning, Jeff. And, all those criminals that you were mentioning, I thought you were talking about elected Democratic officials in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Because I know they've been financially raping me for about 50 years, Jeff. But what this callers just mentioned on property, the residential property taxes just went out. Most residential property owners got their bills. It's up 13. That just put Boston rental units, one-bedroom rentals units is the second highest in the country at almost $3,300 a month. So, what is the difference of Somalis stealing money versus elected officials using taxpayer dollars for illegals? You can remember it wasn't too long ago when Michelle Wu defied Congress when she was asked, well, how much money do you spend on illegals? Well, we don't keep that figure. They don't keep that figure. Well, Jeff, that the amount of money that these major cities get is based on the census. That's why for years they go door to door to door to get as many illegals on the census list as they possibly can. And that is the basis for them getting money here. In so much as that shooting in Minneapolis, it's sad that it happened, but it was justified. It was definitely justified. And I think Kristi Noem should maybe change the terms of engagement with the ICE agents, with these agitators who assault their agents.
CJ, can you do me a favor? I'm up against a hard break. I want you to please finish your thought. Okay, let's go right back to CJ in Boston. CJ, you were on a roll and you were saying Kristi Noem, the Department of Homeland Security Secretary, she needs to change the rules of engagement when ICE now is confronted by these violent rioters and domestic terrorists. Please pick up where you left off, CJ.
Well, I believe when these ICE agents are assaulted or impeded, they should give the order to back off, and if they don't, they should be tased immediately. That would force their local EMTs and fire departments to respond to check up on these people. As that gentleman said, how Frey is allowing people to put signs about not supporting ICE on their lawns. I would say that if we go into a house for a raid and we catch an illegal in that house, that the federal government is going to confiscate that piece of property. That's what I would say to Frey. But, Jeff, people have to look in the mirror. It all comes down to who you vote for and who you put in office. I see no difference from Somalis stealing $9 billion from the American taxpayer or an elected official using my tax dollars to support illegal aliens in Boston or in Massachusetts. So those people who are going to get a a raise on their rent probably next month because the taxes in Boston went up 13%. Know that your governor, who is up for re-election, is giving $3,000 a month for up to 2 years for people to live in apartments. That's on your tax dollar. On the immigration, just let me mention this. Trump has done a fantastic job on immigration. He has shut the border down. But as long as that anti-American Semite from Minnesota, Ilhan Omar, stays in this country, is in Congress, that is a slap in the face to every American who believes in the rule of law. She has her citizenship, if proven she married her brother or used government funds for colleges. She needs to be stripped of her citizenship and sent back to Somalia. Look, if Marco Rubio can keep people out of this country who is speaking up against this government, then Donald Trump needs to remove Ilhan Omar, an elected official who on a daily basis slams our way of life, our rule of law, in the United States of America.
CJ, what do you think is going to happen? This is now, I think, the $64,000 question. You've got Trump now cutting off all this federal funding. It's going to start February 1st. All sanctuary cities, all sanctuary jurisdictions. Boston, obviously, is going to be right at the top of the list. Do you think Mayor Wu is going to back down? Do you think they're going to change their behavior? Or do you think they're that fanatical, that rabid, that radical, that they're just going to continue to support these criminal illegals, even if it means costing them and their residents billions and billions of dollars? In other words, is this going to really put the screws into the Mayor Wu's, into the Jacob Freys, into the Mamdanis of this country? Or do you think that this is for them a war, a fight to the end? You can cut all the federal funding you want. Sanctuary city now, sanctuary city forever. What do you think their response is going to be over the next couple of weeks?
They're going to resist. They would rather see America burn than to submit to the rule of law. And the dirty little secret here in Boston is the poor people who have lived in their homes for years may lose their homes because of the increase in taxes, because immediately their insurance is going to go up on the property. The dirty little secret is that the only people, and they come in here and overbid on these houses. They come in here, the developers who come in here and buy up these houses, make it more expensive to live in the city of Boston, and the poor working schmo, I mean, he's out of it. He's got to sell his house. Look, we've got a senator, I believe she's from Newton, Cynthia Cream, who right now has a bill up in the State House. It looks as though she wants to start taxing people for the amount of miles they drive a year.
That's right.
I mean, what's going on here? What does that say to a working guy who has two jobs? He's got to drive 20 or 30 miles each way every day to go to work, maybe to two jobs. What does that say to the working people? All I have to say to the people of Massachusetts is the next time you go to the voting booth, okay, realize who's creating these problems for you as a working individual. It's your elected leaders. And let me tell you, Jeff, those are the people who should be put in jail first. Because if you're stealing my tax dollars, there's no difference whether you're an elected official, you're a city, or you're a state, stealing my tax dollars to house or in any way help illegal aliens. You're as much a criminal as the Somalis in Minnesota.
Bingo. CJ, drop the mic. They're as much a criminal as a Somali pirate. You nailed it. CJ, thank you so much for that call. 617-266-6868. Okay, Trump now drops the hammer. He will cut federal funding, all federal payments to sanctuary cities, sanctuary states. This begins in about 2 weeks, February 1st. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, President Trump now, as I said, drops the hammer. He now has announced he is going to pull all federal funding, all federal payments to sanctuary cities, sanctuary states, whether it's Minnesota, Minneapolis, L.A., California, Portland, Oregon, the whole state. Boston is on the list. Rhode Island is going to lose it's going to lose all their federal funding. So this is going to affect a lot of jurisdictions across the United States. Do you support it? Are you in favor of it? Or do you feel that it's going to economically hurt you in the process? 617-266-6868. I just want to read a really good text. This is from 781. You can text the Kuhner Man, 70470, 70470. Jeff, the liberals keep telling us that diversity is our strength. Well, how do Somalis make Minnesota better? After 10 years of living on the dole in Minnesota, 72% of Somali households are still on welfare. And this is according to official data presented at a congressional hearing last week. And this helps Minnesota how exactly? Bingo. It doesn't. It doesn't. And it's not just Somalis, frankly, in Minneapolis. It's in Lewiston, Maine. The numbers are very similar. What is it? 74, 75% are on welfare? And this is after being here for 10, 15 years. I'm not talking, they just got off the boat or whatever, off a plane and they need a year or two to adjust and transition and learn the language and get some skills. I mean, we're talking now 10, 12, 15, in some cases 20 years. And you're still on welfare? And by the way, it's not just here. It's in Denmark. It's in Norway. It's in Northern Europe, wherever they've been resettled. Now, I'm not saying, obviously, individually, there aren't good, hardworking Somalis. Of course they are. But the numbers, the data, the stats don't lie. Most of them come to be clients of the Democratic Party and to live off welfare, to become welfare dependents. And the Democrats are happy to do this as long as they continue to vote for the Democrats in one mass single voting block. And that's why they deliberately look the other way as billions and billions and billions of our money was being stolen right underneath everybody's nose across Minnesota. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Okay, $19 billion in Minnesota, $9 billion just in the Somali community alone. $9 billion. You start going to California, New York, Illinois, the big states with big populations, or even here, Massachusetts. Remember, what is it? 5.3 million. Don't quote me on this. 5.8 is the population of Minnesota. Population-wise, they're even smaller than we are in Massachusetts. And I'm telling you, this is why they don't want to honor the ballot initiative that was 72, 73% of voters to audit the state legislature and audit all of these government programs and all of the government spending. Because if you do a proper state audit and you open up the books, you're going to see fraud discovered here at the level that we're seeing now, for example, in Minnesota. Which, I'm sorry to do this to you at 8:36 in the morning, probably in your car on your way to work, busting your rear end to pay taxes and put food on the table. But that means that billions and billions of our hard-earned taxpayer money is being stolen. It's being wasted, and there's fraud, and they're just basically lining their pockets at our expense. The Democrats, the politicians line their pockets, and of course their welfare clients, the illegals, line their pockets. And it's a very simple quid pro quo. You steal, we give you all the welfare you want, but you got to keep voting for us in perpetuity. And there you go. 617-266-6868. Linda in Medford. Thanks for holding, Linda, and welcome.
Morning. Well, I think that it's best to get back to basics. We want to break the back of this cartel in the country that's importing individuals, basically paying for them to vote by welfare checks. Start really arresting the Clintons, Waltz, now this fool Frey, Brennan. You start arresting some of the bigger fruit, people will calm down. And when these, hopefully, hearings go on TV, they'll push up all of this baloney about ICE abusing people. And it will be long ago and far away, and things will go along smoothly. I think the only concern I have is Obama gets arrested or dragged before Congress, that it could start some type of real aggressive racist. It might not be worth the blowback, but the rest of them go after them and at least get all of this stuff off the TV so these people aren't smiling at the cameras and waving their signs.
Oh, Linda, I agree with you completely. Completely. Look, forget Obama, forget the Clintons. And by the way, they committed contempt of Congress yesterday. They defied a subpoena to appear in front of a deposition at the House Oversight Committee. So they had to appear. And they wrote a letter in plan, basically in a nutshell. They told Comer, the head of the committee, go fly a kite. We're not showing up. We don't care how many subpoenas you send us. So it's open, naked contempt of Congress, which is a federal crime. Now, I'm telling you, nothing's going to happen. Now, Steve Bannon, that's a different story. If you're Peter Navarro, for contempt of Congress, they put him in jail for 6 months. So you see, if you're a top Trump former official or advisor and they do the contempt of Congress, you're off to the clink. But if you're a Democrat, never mind a former president and secretary of state, you can break the law with impunity. And I'm telling you, the Republicans do not have the stones. They do not have the guts to go after the Clintons. So basically, the Clintons called Comer's bluff. Now, we'll see. The Republicans have made a criminal referral to Pam Bondi at the Department of Justice to indict the Clintons on contempt of Congress. They've committed contempt of Congress. It's there. There's no disputing it. Will Bondi do it? No way. No way. So that's the problem. Republicans will never put Democrats behind bars because they're too chicken. So honestly, Linda, I agree with you completely. Please don't get me wrong. I would settle just Jacob Frey. Forget a president. Here, just get me that clown that's running Minneapolis into the ground. That's openly calling for an insurrection and rebellion against the United States. Him, just him. Put him in handcuffs. That's it. Just do me that. And they're afraid to do that. They won't even do the bare minimum. And I think it goes to the heart of your point. Look, if I was to say to all of you, we've got a massive fentanyl cocaine drug problem. Now, do I want the small drug dealers, the petty drug dealers arrested? Of course. Do I want to take this garbage off the streets? Of course. But if you really want to go after the problem, what do? You go after the heads of the cartels. It's just right. You say, well, yeah, of course. Sure, you want to get the little fish, but you really want to get the big fish. Because if you take out the big fish, then the little fish will fall. So that's exactly how we have to look at this problem. The ones that are fomenting this insurrection, the ones behind these sanctuary cities and states, are the leading prominent leaders of the Democratic Party. And they're all criminals. And they're committing crime after crime after crime. So, it's fine to put these protesters who are blocking traffic and obstructing ICE in prison, but I want the people behind them because they're ultimately the ones pulling their strings, and no one's touching them. No one so far has dared to touch them. Now, at a minimum, they're going to at least now start to feel some pain. They're going to start to pay a price because now billions in federal funding gone. So it's a start, and we'll see what happens. Thank you for that call, Linda. Okay, I don't have time. Angelo in Rockland, hang on. I'm up against the break, so let me just quickly reset. President Trump now announced yesterday, it was a shocker to many liberals. To me, it was long overdue, but hey, it happened, and I'm happy. Federal funding will now be pulled. There will be no more federal payments.
We're giving 90-day notices to places like California, Scott. Right away, we're going to send out that notice. Who would bill the federal government as people poured into the state to send those people back because no country can afford to do it? No country can afford to take in millions of people, pay for their education, their health care, their hospitals. You just can't do it. And we all have a heart. You can't do it. But many of those people are murderers. They're people released from jails, prisons, mental institutions, insane asylums. They're people that are drug dealers. They're addicts. Additionally, starting February 1st, we're not making any payments to sanctuary cities or states having sanctuary cities because they do everything possible to protect criminals at the expense of American citizens, and it breeds fraud and crime and all of the other problems that come. So we're not making any payment to anybody that supports sanctuary cities.
Baby. Yeah, baby. That's what I'm talking about. 8:51 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. Angelo in Rockland. Thanks for holding, Angelo, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you today? I know it's a crazy day.
Well, it was a long time in coming, and Angelo, I think they forced Trump's hand. We've been calling for it for how many years now on this show, and honestly, I feel vindicated. But he's doing what he has to do, and he's got I think at this point he really has no choice, and I just hope now he follows through, and he sticks to his guns. And I think finally now, if they're going to feel real financial, real economic pain, you're going to start to see now many of these residents in places like Boston and New York City and Minneapolis and Portland and Chicago and L.A., they're going to start to turn now on their mayors and on their governors because now it's going to really start to hurt them. When there's no money for their schools and their hospitals and their roads and their bridges and police and fire and everything else, they're going to say, why are we protecting illegals? And especially violent criminal illegals. And those mayors and governors are not going to have an answer. So Trump is, he's now tightening the economic screws. I say keep going. But anyway, that's me. Angelo, do you agree with Trump? Disagree? What's your take on this?
Well, before I even start, I just want to say to Bill and Sudbury, put your thumb in your mouth and suck it. So getting back to Trump, the working people, the working people are definitely going to feel the pain on this. But you know something, we've been feeling the pain right along with everything. The laws are on the books for a reason, for all these illegal aliens and everything. Our radical governors and mayors, Jeff, they're just pushing this agenda, the false agenda that Americans are getting killed and hurt. But what they're actually doing is they're inciting an insurrection. What they're doing is what Trump didn't do and they said he did. So now their plan is get the mothers out there with the kids in their arms, and then, of course, ICE agents are trying to control the situation, putting tear gas or whatever. Now the babies are in harm's way. To save the public and the American people and ICE agents and law enforcement, I would, if I was Trump. Now, Trump, no disrespect to Trump, I support him 1,000,000%, not 1,000. When that bullet almost killed him and grazed his ear, don't forget, he almost got killed there. But did he go deaf? Mr. Trump, you didn't go deaf. You heard what Tampon Tim said. And what Tampon Tim said was he's at war with the government. That being said, I would have immediately called martial law. Now you're protecting the protesters, you're protecting ICE, and we can go in, get the illegal aliens out, and those the criminals out. Get them out. Flush them out. Everybody's safe. Martial law. You're protecting everything. The radical governor and mayors of these towns and cities have to be held accountable. I would freeze their assets and definitely all that stolen money that's bankrolling all these people that are doing all these horrible things, going after law enforcement and putting them in a bad position to act, because that's what it is, to push their agenda forward. And I think that's what's really going on here. I support everything they're doing. I support the American people. Get them out. One other thing, net zero, Jeff, Freedom to Move Act, S-2246. We have to go against it. They're telling us we can't drive now. What are we going to do? Get the camels from Somalia and camel around? The refugees from Somalia, I got so much to say, I'm sorry. The refugees from Somalia will never assimilate to our laws and a way of American life, And that being said, their leader and them should be kindly escorted out and deported back from where they came from, no disrespect. Hallelujah for America. That's all I got to say.
Angelo, look, they've been here now, many of them, 20, 25 years. They're not assimilating. They don't want to assimilate. Ilhan Omar, who represents them, has told us repeatedly their first loyalty is to Somalia and to the Somali government and to the Somali president. So, I don't know how much clearer they can make it. But to your fundamental point, you're right. They're inciting an insurrection. And Trump now has no choice but to take decisive action. And I believe that's the start. This is not going to stop. I think this is going to continue. He's going to have to send in the National Guard and maybe even declare martial law. We'll see how far they're willing to go in Minnesota. And I'm happy you mentioned there's stories out there now that women are using babies. And this is in Minneapolis at these protests. They're using their babies. I'm talking, 6-month-old baby in the freezing cold as human shields against ICE. So if ICE wants to make a raid, I mentioned that, some of the suspects they're arresting. Okay, these are convicted child molesters, sex predators, drug traffickers, murderers. They're holding their babies and they're using the babies as human shields as they put themselves in front of ICE cars or ICE vehicles. Now, basically saying, I dare you. What are you going to do? Shoot me? What are you going to do? Shoot my baby? Now, I'll be honest. If I'm a law enforcement officer, I don't want to kill a baby. I don't want to kill anybody, obviously. But I don't want to kill a baby. They're willing to use their babies as human shields? These people are crazy. They're nuts. It's almost as I'm not a DCF guy. I don't like DCF and the way they abuse their power. But part of me says, get DCF in there. They're not fit mothers. If they're willing to endanger the lives of their babies to defend criminal illegal aliens and to obstruct ICE, there's a serious screw loose. Is that baby safe in the arms of that mother? So as a law enforcement officer, what do you do? Even if you want to arrest the woman, she's holding the baby. God forbid she drops the baby or something happens to the baby. So this is what I mean when I say it's out of control. It's a rebellion. It's a rebellion. Rose in Norwood. Thanks for holding, Rose, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you loud and clear. Go ahead, Rose.
Thank you. On your issue of withholding our real estate taxes because they're being abused and fraudulently given to people who don't deserve them, actually. I have a plan, and I don't know the legalities. I haven't researched it, but it just came in, crossed my mind as you were talking today. instead of continuing to pay as we have or just not paying at all, why don't we continue to pay, but put that money into an escrow account, possibly with Diane Ziglio, the auditor, until we know that it's going to be used to improve our roads, pay for the services that we're supposed to be paying for, not supporting the illegals.
Rose, I mean, no truer words have been spoken. Look, let me speak to you now, obviously as an American, as a taxpayer, as a conservative, but as a Catholic, as a Christian. I don't mind paying taxes. I really don't. I feel it's my duty as a citizen to contribute to society. I want to pay for the roads that we all use, the bridges, schools, hospitals, police, fire department, and to go even further, really. Many people who are listeners of this show are on a fixed income, or they're the working poor. Many of them are the working poor. And so they really need government assistance. They're single moms or whatever, and they're working hard. They're trying to raise their children. They want to work, pay taxes, but they're stretched thin. I really, honestly, to me, the welfare state exists to take care of my fellow Americans, my brothers and sisters, because to me, we're like a family. The American people, we're like a family. And by the grace of God, there go I. So, yeah, of course, you need a helping hand. I'm more than happy to pay to help you, take care of yourself, put a roof over your head, feed you, feed your children. The food stamps should go for Americans and American children. The school lunch programs. I don't want kids going hungry at school. Okay, no problem. I'll pay taxes. But it's got to go to the kids, American kids. A Section 8 housing. Yeah, you need help with housing. God bless you. It's for Americans. That's what I pay for. I'm not paying for illegals, man. And I'm not paying for illegals who are scamming the system. That to me is what's most offensive, Rose. I mean, this is thievery. It's thievery. These are fraudsters, con artists, grifters. And let me just say this, Rose, because Grace is about to come on, and I know she's going to agree with me on this. I never want to speak for my wife, but on this, I know she agrees with me. My parents came off the boat, literally. Okay, they were legal immigrants to Canada. My mother came with a suitcase and $10 in her pocket, literally $10 in her pocket. Grace will tell you about her father from Italy, the old country. He came with nothing. I mean, nothing. Except his determination to work hard and succeed. Now, okay, you're here illegally. I'm against it. Please don't get me wrong. But, I'd be much more sympathetic if you're out there working and saying, look, I was born in a bad country, bad circumstances, impoverished. I didn't want to stay there. I came into your country illegally. I'm sorry, but man, I'm going to work. Because I want to contribute and I want to make something of myself. All right. I'm willing to hear you. I'm sympathetic to you. I am. But you're going to come here and steal from school lunch programs. You're going to steal from food stamps. You're going to pretend to be running daycare centers and getting paid millions of dollars, and there's not a freaking kid in the room. You're disgusting. You're disgusting. You're a thief. You're a thief. That's what you are. You're a thief. So out. Every single one of them. Out. Rose, thank you so much for that call. Agree, disagree. Okay, joining me now, as she always does at this time, Dr. Grace, putting liberals in their place. Grace Voto, full disclosure. Oh, I married up. Believe me, I married up. Grace, I know you got strong feelings about this. President Trump now says he's going to cut all federal funds to sanctuary cities, sanctuary states. This includes, obviously, Boston. Your reaction?
Oh, Jeff, when it comes to the border and immigration, President Donald J. Trump has exceeded my expectations. When I cast a vote for him in this election, I was really hoping he was going to at least just close the border and, of course, deport the illegals. I never thought that he was going to go this far to keep his promise to even deport anybody that is here illegally. So not just the criminal illegals, but anybody. And he has exceeded my expectations. He has shown a level of toughness on this question that I have not seen in my lifetime, that American citizens have not seen in their lifetimes. Nobody is as committed to restoring law and order than this president. And he has been brilliant on this question, and now he's going to take it to another level. And this is the key question. Federal funds come with federal laws. So you're either in or out of the Federation. You can't take the privileges of being within this, larger structure, but then you don't want to abide by its laws. So it's one or the other.
Do you think that cutting federal funds is going to ultimately hurt people like you, people like me, conservatives, people who support Trump, but it's going to hurt our roads, our schools, our health care, our fire and police departments, because in the end, that's what the funding goes towards. It helps to subsidize these basic services that we use and we need. So is it unusual? Is it cruel, and is it leading to collateral damage? Because that's what the Democrats are arguing. I'm just curious. What's your take on that?
Well, it depends exactly which funds are cut and how this whole thing is done. So the details have yet to be unveiled. I also think that the courts are probably going to strike the whole thing down. But it doesn't matter. The point is that Trump is sending a clear message, and that's what we, the citizens who voted for him, want to see. We want to see him saying, I'm going to fight you. You're not just going to have all the power in this battle. We have power, too, and whatever power we have, we're going to leverage it. I think ultimately it's more of a tactic. I don't know how long he can halt the federal funds, but I think it's worth doing to flesh out those that are truly going to continue to defy him, because what will happen is even just that threat and actually doing it in part, however he wants to do it, some of them are going to back down. I don't think all the mayors are going to keep resisting him, those that, claim to be these tough exponents of the sanctuary city policy. I think some are probably going to back down. So I think it's a good tactic in the short term. So I think he should definitely do it and send this clear message that, he's going to play hardball with you if you're going to play hardball with him. And one of the things that, Jeff, hasn't been talked about enough is this. I heard so much commentary about, do ICE agents need better training, et cetera. Well, what struck me is in the incident with Miss Good there, who was killed, she apparently was trained by ICE Watch, right? Nobody's asking, what about the training that these agitators are being given? You know that she violated even the training that they've been given. They're told to stay out of the way of the activities of law enforcement. So even according to the idiotic rules of the agitators, she broke those rules. And they're only supposed to be documenting what ICE does. They're supposed to stay out of the way. Even according to ICE Watch, you're not supposed to go in there and block the traffic, So, and escalate the situation. They're supposed to be trained to help to de-escalate. She was doing the very opposite of what even ICE Watch was training them to do. So there's no question that this woman was idiotic from start to finish, along with her spouse.
Grace, the media in particular, the Democrats obviously, are saying that Renee Good is a martyr, that this was a murder. That's what they're saying, that this ICE agent, Jonathan Ross, killed her in cold blood. It was unnecessary. It was malicious on his part. And I'm just curious, you saw the multiple videotapes that have come out. What was your reaction to the shooting? Was this a legitimate self-defense shooting in your view?
Look, Jeff, in my view, I think that Renee and the wife, they were having a great time. They thought this was just going to be fodder for social media. And, she had antagonized the ICE officers all day. And at that point, I think she was steering her car to try to leave. However, at that point, it doesn't matter because she had defied direct orders from the ICE agents. In that moment, they told her, get out of the car. And she had defied those orders. So it doesn't even matter what was in her head. It was her actions. Her actions were threatening to that officer, and he didn't have time, to write a thesis. What is in her head right now? Is she moving to leave? Is she going to kill me? So he shot in self-defense, I mean, think about this. We're looking at this, taking a lot of time, looking at all the angles, and people still debating what was in her head. He didn't have time to do that. And so, of course, I think from the point of view of what was justified legally, he was justified to strike her. She was a complete idiot because I don't think that she was moving to actually harm him. I think she was just trying to get out of the way. But at that point, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what she thinks. What matters is that her actions were in violation of the direct orders of law enforcement. And when it comes to that officer, I mean, what a brave guy. This guy had been wounded before. He's doing a really hard job. He goes back in the field. How many people even want to be ICE agents? I mean, it takes a really tough dude to want to do that job. Never mind somebody who's already been wounded. He goes back in. This guy is a hero. He shouldn't be vilified. We have to be sympathetic to the kind of stress that he's under. And that idiot kept antagonizing him, and it basically was a tinderbox. You don't antagonize somebody that's already under stress. I mean, think about this from, let's say, Jeff, the number one rule you and I have learned as a married couple. If you or I are under stress, get out of the way of that person for a while, right? Now think about the stress that these officers are under. So, of course, something is going to go wrong.
Grace, we've got a minute and literally a minute left. What do you make of the wife of Renee Good taunting the police just before the fatal shooting? Come and get us, come and get us. Why don't you go have lunch, big boy? And then telling her wife, drive, baby, drive, baby, drive. Is she complicit in the death of Renee as well?
Well, she's complicit in utter stupidity because from their point of view, they're having a great time antagonizing the officers, and they didn't realize how dangerous what they were doing is. And so that was very bad advice. Any other spouse would have said, stop immediately, because this is a tinderbox and something is going to go wrong. I mean, how many times I'm literally, I can see an accident about to happen a mile away when it's something very mild, let's say with children or with you. Hey, Jeff, be careful. The floor is slippery. If you step on it, you're going to get hurt because you're not paying attention. I mean, most of the times we try to protect our spouses from escalating.
Oh, you're dead on. You're dead on. You're absolutely dead on. No, she should have told her wife right away, please just get out of the car. Just get out. Okay, get out. Instead, she gave her the exact wrong advice. 617-266-6868. Dave in Methuen. Thanks for holding, Dave, and welcome.
Yeah.
Hi, Dave.
Jeff, I'm up in New Hampshire right now. That's how long I've been listening since the phone.
Dave, if you could give us a quick traffic report. How's the weather? How are the roads? Good?
Clear as day, Jeff. Nice and sunny up here.
Dave, buddy, what do you make of all this? Do you stand with Trump? Is it time to cut all federal funding to sanctuary cities and states?
Jeff, I agree on 90% of it, but the only thing is, it's going to hurt the people that really need the money. Like you get the elderly that depend on their checks. You get the people that are disabled that, depend on their checks and food stamps and stuff like that. That's going to hurt the people who really need the money if he cuts everything off like that. But as far as what he's doing and why, I agree 100%.
Dave, look, you drive around Boston, you drive around greater Boston, you know that area almost better than anybody. Do you think Wu's supporters, she's a big sanctuary city mayor, she's almost made it the signature issue for her, are they going to stand with her when there's no money or they've cut the money for the schools, for the roads, for the hospitals, for the bridges, for the police, for the fire department? Are they not, if they're going to pay a price, if they're going to face real economic pain, are they going to turn on Mayor Wu, or are they going to stand with Marxist Michelle?
Jeff, what I think is that she's got she's got a way of just twisting everybody's story around. I think half of them are going to say, see you later, we're done. But she's got such a way of conning people into thinking that she knows all the answers. And that's going to give her a problem. Jeff, we all know she's a fruitcake in disguise. And it's like, she needs to just shut up and do what she's supposed to do and stop defying the laws of the country and stop letting all these illegals. Because number one, Jeff, you and I both know she's dipping into that money, and the so-called and this fake governor, she's dipping into the money. So it's all about the money, Jeff. Because both of them don't give a damn about anything that's going on in Boston. We got all these homeless veterans that are still, just trying to get by, living in a box, and some of them are panhandling on the corners, and I see that a lot too, Jeff. But you know what? I think most of them will, and maybe she might wake up and smell the coffee, if she has any coffee. But Jeff, I don't know. I don't trust her for anything. I think she's going to still try to pull the strings, and she'll come out with some crazy notion that she wants to take Donald Trump to court because he's sick and tired of all these illegals coming in. Jeff, I can't even get extra money on what I need to do, okay? My brother's disabled, and he goes down to try to find out about his housing, and they tell him to get in line all the time. Jeff, he's a veteran. He's disabled, he's a veteran, and it's like they tell him to get in line just like they're doing to all these other homeless veterans on the streets. And what have they ever done for anybody in Boston, Jeff? They've done nothing. They don't care about anything going on. And I see the elderly people who I have to pick up and take them to their appointments and stuff, and they're like, some of them are panicking on what's going on because of the way things are. It's not Donald Trump's fault. It's the governors and the illegal politicians who shouldn't even be in there, and they need to go. And, Jeff, I just want to give you a small tip. You said yesterday that you're going to take your daughter to McDonald's and you don't want to go to McDonald's. Okay, Jeff, I'm going to give you a good tip to go. You and I both know if all 4 years go out, you and your wife and your kids go to McDonald's, you're spending about $100, right?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Jeff, take my advice. If you're going to do that type of money, and I'm being straight up with you, bring the kids all the way back to Revere. Take a ride up to Revere. Go to the Flaming Grill next to the Suffolk Downs, Jeff. It's right next to the Dollar Tree. It's a Chinese buffet. And I know your kids like Chinese food. Jeff, all one price. You're going to get a full-size meal, whatever you want to get, Jeff. It's a Chinese buffet. And just a dessert bar. Your kids will love it. They got a dessert bar almost a quarter mile.
Dave, thank you so much, see, now you're giving my kids ideas. Dave, thank you so much for that call. I really appreciate it. No, Sandy was telling me take the kids to Chick-fil-A. She goes, come on, go to Chick-fil-A. Go, if you're going to go big. But no, Dave, look, disabled veterans back of the line. Americans back at the line. The elderly back at the line. You know who goes to the front of the line? Illegals. They don't wait for their housing. Have you noticed that? They don't wait for their food stamps. They don't wait for their checks. No. That's why I often say this. I go, treat me like an illegal. That's all I ask. Please, just treat me like an illegal. And I think you put your finger right on it. Follow the money. Follow the money. And I think if we actually have a proper state audit, transparency, open up the books, you're going to see that Wu is just like Jacob Frey and that Healy is just like Tampon Tim. They're up to their eyeballs in billions and billions of welfare fraud, scams, grifts. They're putting illegals on welfare, and God knows what they're getting in return. I think there's no question. Because from a rational point of view, why would you be willing to pay this kind of a massive political price? Be against the law. Literally, be outside the law. 617-266-6868. Okay, the rhetoric is clearly escalating. on the streets of Minneapolis and across Minnesota by the radical left, by these anti-ICE activists. They're being inflamed by the governor, Tampon Tim, Jacob Fry, the boy mayor of Minneapolis, and of course the Democrats and the media. It is getting to the point now where they're cutting videos, literally on TikTok. You can't make this up. Calling now for the execution and the murder, the killing of ICE agents. Listen now. This is a radical left anti-ICE insurrectionist. There's no other word to call him. Activist, I guess. A vigilante on TikTok. And he posts this video. Roll cut 22. A mic.
Hey, so look, I'm just going to come out and say it. I don't really care about the consequences anymore. I don't care. We need to kill these people. There's just an alternative. I don't care if you say, oh, I've got the crazy eyes, whatever. Yeah, I do feel crazy because we've had 3 people die in 72 hours, and we've had over almost 30 die in the last year to a group of quote-unquote law enforcement that is basically just buffed up mall cops, right? Who are gun-triggering happy Proud Boys. Let's call them what they are. It's the Proud Boys. Why do you think we didn't hear about them? Any of you heard about the Proud Boys all year? Suddenly no more Nazi marches? None of that? Right. There we go.
So now the myth that they're spreading is that ICE is essentially a neo-Nazi militia, a neo-Nazi paramilitary group being sent in by Trump. You can't make this up. And just shooting people. People are dying. 3 people died. 30 people died. 100 people died. They're just going into neighborhoods and they're just shooting people. They're just boom, 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 boom. Like as Waltz called them, the modern day Gestapo. So he doubles down. Listen to this. He say, look, I'm not joking. Kill them. We got to start killing them. Roll cut 22A. Mike.
They're Nazis. Peyton said it best. They're Nazis. And the only way to stop this, let's be honest, is going to be to get violent. We got to get violent, people. And I'm tired of denying it, and I'm tired of y'all being about it. Grow up. We're not going to get through this holding hands. Peaceful protest only works if your enemy has a moral obligation to listen to it. They have none. You guys are sitting there holding up signs and saying, oh, I'm mad at you. You're pathetic. Burn something.
You have enough people like this, and I'm telling you, the blood is going to flow in the streets. And that's why I've been saying now for I don't know how many days, it's inevitable. More people are going to die, God forbid, and I fear ICE agents are now going to be killed because they're calling for them to be murdered and executed and assassinated. And by the way, no condemnation from Waltz, no condemnation from Fry, no condemnation from the media, nothing. They're glorifying people like him. They're glorifying them. They're quote-unquote freedom fighters. So this is what ICE is now up against. Kathy in Danvers. Thanks for holding, Kathy, and welcome.
Oh, so this is my thought. Taxpayers are paying for the burden of these immigrants, quote-unquote illegals. I would like a petition started for the 26th vote for the citizens to vote whether or not they want to be a sanctuary city. Why is a handful up there in Beacon Hill telling us we have to protect them when we all voted for Trump because we wanted to get rid of them? They're a burden on our water supply. We're going to run out of water. There's no doubt in my mind. It's just a burden on you. Have 400,000 in Massachusetts alone. 2 showers a week. That's 800,000 more showers, isn't it? A week.
Oh, Kathy, you're dead on. And,
my God.
And Kathy, I promise I'll let you finish. They're a burden on everything. They're a burden on rent, on housing, on rental apartments. That's why rent is so expensive, because these illegals are taking up so much of the housing. They're a burden on the food supply. They're a burden on our hospitals. They're a burden on our schools. They're congestion, traffic on the roads. And they're a burden on our tax money. And Kathy, look, you're right. Please don't get me wrong. You're not 100. You're 1,000% right, as I like to say. But it's not just a group of people up on Beacon Hill suddenly declaring these people are all okay and we have to give them all this welfare money. It's the law. How are they allowed to break the law? You know, Kathy, I don't like to pay all these taxes. I can't just not pay my taxes. I go to jail. Honestly, there's a lot of laws I disagree with. I don't go around breaking the law. You don't go around breaking the law. You know, here, I'm coming into work, just to give you, it's a small example. How many times I come into work, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, 4:30, whatever. I'm at a red light. There's nobody around me. Nobody to the left, nobody to the right, there's nobody. And I'm like, well, this red light is stupid, right? I'm just like, come on, let's go, turn green, come on, I got to get to work. Now, I don't just go through the red light. I don't say I'm a sanctuary driver. Well, no, nobody's around. Who am I hurting? No. And if a cop saw me, he would be right to give me a ticket. Why? Because I broke the law. And the police officer would rightly say to me, hey, dude, if you think you can go through a red light, everybody will think they can go through a red light. And what do you think is going to happen then? We're going to have accidents left, right, and center. My point is just this. A law is a law is a law. You have to follow and respect the law. If you don't like the law, and I don't like many laws, then you vote to get it changed. And then that's how we do it in a representative democracy, in a constitutional republic. But no, they just let these illegals in, first crime, identity theft, give them a fake ID, second crime, and then they load them up on welfare, which is crime upon crime upon crime. So, Kathy, my question to you is, how come Democrats can break the law, illegals can break the law, but you and I, God forbid, we just go 70 in a 55-mile-an-hour zone, and bang, they hit us with a ticket. In other words, for you and me, they dropped the hammer. We have to abide by the law to the letter. But illegals and Democrats, hey, they can do whatever they want. Am I wrong?
At all. If you spoke to an animal control officer and you had problems with raccoons in your backyard, that animal control officer will tell you we cannot relocate them. Wherever they get relocated, the other raccoons are going to fight them off and kill them because they're after their resources. So they just will kill them dead in your yard. I mean, we have to protect for our children and our grandchildren. We have one dry winter like we're having right now. We're going to be sucking pond water next August.
Oh, you're dead on. Oh, Kathy, you're absolutely dead on. I mean, they're draining our water. As I said, they're draining our tax money. They're draining our food. They're draining our rental, our housing. They're draining our, they're overwhelming our hospitals, our schools, the crime that they're bringing in, the diseases that they're bringing in. It's not their fault. They come from, many of them, very poor third world countries. They don't have basic vaccinations that we have. Look, you import the third world, you become the third world. And if you've noticed, ever since we've had open borders, it's been about 30 some years now, the United States is becoming more and more like a third world country. And Trump is saying no. I mean, that's the essence of his Make America Great Again. What he's saying is America will be America again. We're going to be a first world country, period. Kathy, very good call. Thank you so much. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me ask you, do you think that this action by Trump, he is now going to cut all federal funds to sanctuary cities, sanctuary states? Boston, Massachusetts is going to be very hard hit. So will Rhode Island, California, Illinois, Oregon, the big, deep blue states. We're going to lose billions and billions of dollars. Are you for it? Are you against it? Or do you fear that innocent people are going to be caught up and be hurt by this? To me, I think the president has no choice, and it's the right move. 617-266-6868. Steve in Revere. Thanks for holding, Steve, and welcome.
Good morning, Professor Kuhner. I was hoping you might better help me out with something. Last time we were dealing with this business of withholding federal taxes, one of the things I remember was if that doesn't work, then we're going to start arresting the governors and the mayors. So my question is, why are we going to torture ourselves? Why don't we just cut straight to the chase and start arresting these criminal enablers?
Oh, Steve, I'm with you. The only question is who's going to arrest them. I mean, I'm with you all the way. But, if we make a citizen's arrest, they're going to arrest us. Because as we're seeing in Minneapolis now, at least there, the local police is completely in the tank for Fry and Waltz. I mean, that police chief, this guy O'Hara, he's out of control. He's siding with the protesters against ICE. And the local police have been told to stand down and basically side with the protesters against ICE. So say you and I want to make a citizen's arrest of Michelle Wu or Healy, or say where you and I are in Minnesota and we want to arrest Fry, they're going to arrest us. So the problem, Steve, is unless we have the feds backing us up, we can't do much. Am I wrong?
I'm not saying you're wrong, but if the feds are the ones, if they have the authority, because they're saying if this doesn't work, we're going to start arresting them. So I'm asking, why don't they, instead of withholding our funds, why don't they, the federal government, start arresting these people? Why don't we just cut straight to the chase? I mean, if they have that authority, why don't they use it?
Steve, that's the $64,000 question. I mean, you're completely right. And look, I don't want to be a one-trick pony. I don't want to be a broken record, but it all goes back to Pam Bondi. You've got an attorney general that just, Steve, if I give you the biggest gun in the world and you don't want to shoot it, the gun is useless. It could be an accurate gun. It could be the most expensive gun. It could be the most powerful gun, the most effective gun. But if you won't pull that trigger, there's nothing we can do. And the other side may have pop guns, but they keep shooting. Our side is never, using politically, the proverbially, I'm not saying literally, but she won't pull the trigger on any of these indictments. And it just keeps piling up and piling up and piling up. And that's why my prediction, Steve, I think she's gone by the summer, if not by the spring. I don't think Trump can hold on to her much longer. Steve, I want to give the final word to you. Ultimately, it's up to the Attorney General, the DOJ, and the FBI. And I look at Kash Patel, and I look at and I look at Pam Bondi, and I look at Todd Blanche, and I think that's Trump's Achilles heel. And that's where they're doing the most damage against him. He's very strong with JD. He's very strong with Rubio. He's strong with Kristi Noem. He's strong with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He's got a very strong cabinet. And those areas, it's all flourishing. And even Tom Homan. Tom Homan is in charge of mass deportations. Homan and ICE are doing an incredible job. It's that leadership gap right there. It's the DOJ and the FBI. And that's why there aren't arrests of any of these Democrat criminals. Steve, final word to you.
Well, okay, I appreciate that. That helps clear it up some, but, it really just seems like we're urinating right into the wind here by punishing ourselves instead of just cutting off the head of the snakes. But I get it. It's not a simple answer.
Well, Steve, look, in a way it is. No, but you're right. Look, in a way it is. Look, there's an expression, personnel is policy, right? It doesn't, in other words, you have the right people, that's your policy. They'll implement it for you. But if you have people that are too busy, I'm just going to call it the way I see it. She's too busy getting her hair done and her nails done because she's always on freaking Fox News. Then you can have the law on your side. You can have the truth on your side. You can have the American people on your side. She's not up for the job. That's it. There's nothing else to say. And look, get somebody who's going to be a serious, effective, a courageous attorney general. And I'm telling you, Fry's going to jail. Waltz is going to jail. They're not going to escape this. On the fraud alone, we've got them. Never mind now on this insurrection. So, Steve, I'm with you. There's an expression from The Godfather. You go to war, you need a wartime conciliary, a top advisor. When you want peace, you have a peacetime conciliary. We're in a domestic war. It is a cold civil war that is now threatening. You just heard the guy calling for the execution of ICE agents. It's starting to turn hot. You need a wartime attorney general. And Pam Bondi is not a wartime attorney general. So it's in many ways, it's simple. Replace Pam Bondi and let's roll. Mike, who do you want me to go to next? No time. You know, you love doing this to me, Mike. You love it, the way you smile ear to ear when you say no time. We can't, there's at least a minute left. But we don't want to squeeze somebody. I mean, God forbid we should give the listeners a minute so they can voice their opinions and their views, Mike.